Hi everybody, welcome to Mitch Maths. My name is Mitch and this video is going to be all about rounding numbers. So we're going to be rounding numbers to a certain number of decimal places, significant figures, and then we're going to be looking at questions which ask you to estimate your answer as well. And these usually look at really horrible numbers which you'll have to round up first to give you an estimate, but a much easier way of doing it. Okay, so now let's look at rounding to decimal places then. And the example I've got here is 5.16284. Okay, and the first example we're going to choose is rounding this to 2 decimal places. Okay, so that means we want this to just have 2 numbers after the decimal point and then none after that. Okay, so if we look at this number here then, we've got 5.16, so we've got 16 as our 2 decimal places, but then we have a 284 afterwards. Okay, so this must be the last digit of our new number that's been rounded, and then what we must then do is look at the next number along. Okay, in this case it's a 2, and this is our deciding number. So this will tell us whether we're going to round this up or round it down. Okay, so if we look at this number, what this number actually is, it is somewhere in between 5.16 and 5.17. Okay, the 2 decimal places. It's somewhere in between these two. So it's a little bit more than 5.16. Okay, so the number one rule then, when we're looking at rounding, is depending on our decider value here, this tells us exactly which way we're going to round it. And the best rule is if it's a 5 or above, we'll round it upwards. And if that number is less than a 5, so either 4.99999 or less, then we'll round it down. Okay? So if it's a 4 or less, we'll round it down. 5 and above, we'll round it up. So in this case, it's a 2, so it falls into this region, so we'll round it down. Okay? So that means we'll round it down to 2 decimal places. So that will bring us down to 5.16. Just like that. Okay, so now if we wanted to round this to 3 decimal places, okay, we would then have down to 2, okay, and then our decider now becomes 8. Okay, so we need to look at either do we round this down to 5.162 or we can round this up to 5.163, okay? And we look at our decider, it's 8. 8 is obviously more than 5, so that means we round it up. So to 3 decimal places, this number will become 5.163, okay? Because we've rounded this up to 3 because the next number along was an 8, and 8 is bigger than 5, so that means this is closer to 5.163 to 3 decimal places. Okay? Okay, so a slightly trickier example then would be one which we have lots of 9s in it like this, and this one just again asks us for 2 decimal places. So we have 17.299. Okay? So you want 2 numbers after the decimal point. So we want to keep the 17 and keep 2 numbers, so we 17.2. This is the number we need to decide whether to round up or down, and then this number will then be our decider. Okay, so in this case we have a 9, so 9 is obviously bigger than 5, so that means we want to round this up. But the thing is, we can't round 9 up because the number after 9 will be 10. So what we will then do is we want to then take our 10 that we round this up to, and we want to then carry the 1 over to the next column, and then this column will come to 0. Okay, so rounding this to 2 decimal places would be 17.30. Okay, because we can't round this up to another number, so it must round up to 10, but to put the 10 in, we must then carry the 1 over to the next column, so the next number must increase, and then we'll keep the 0 afterwards. Okay, so another slightly more extreme example of this then would be if we chose another example, which was, say if we had 1.999 9, 6, and we want to round this to 3 decimal places. Okay, so we want to keep 3 numbers after the decimal point. So we go to 1, 2, 3. Okay, then this number becomes our decider number. Okay, so here we have a 6, and we know that 6 is bigger than 5, so that means we want to round this up. Okay, so we want to round this number up because of our 6. So put 9 up becomes 10. So we could put a 0 there. We then want to add 9 onto 1 here, but again, that's 10. So we must carry the 10 over again. And then we have another 9, so that means we have another 10. So we must carry the 10 over again. And then here we're just left with 1, add it onto the 1. So this simply becomes 2.000, okay? Which is this number rounded to 3 decimal points. Because we had all those 9s, we keep rounding the 9s up and keep taking that 10 along until we get to a number which we can then add 1 to. Okay? So moving on to some significant figures now. Now this works slightly differently to decimal places. So significant figures is all about the number of zeros we have at the start of our number. Okay? So for example, a number like this one, 50.174, okay, the first number is a 5, okay, which means that this is our first significant figure, okay, so our first, and then once we have our first one defined, then the numbers then follow after that, second, third, fourth, fifth significant figure, okay, so that will then become our second, that will become our third, fourth, fifth, okay. This one though, for example, so here we have 0.00275, okay? So if we have zeros at the start of our number, these ones do not count as our significant figures, okay? So our first significant figure is the first number above 0, and in this case it's 2. So this 2 is our first significant figure, the 7 then becomes our second, and the 5 becomes our third. Okay? And that is how significant figures work. So when we're asked, for example, to round to 2 significant figures, okay, we then round them exactly how we did before with decimal places, but this time to significant figures. So if we took our first example then, our 50.174, to 2 significant figures, we count along to find our second significant figure, okay? So this must be the last digit of our number once it's been rounded. So we take, that's our last number. The next number along becomes our decider, just like for decimal places, and this time it's a 1. So because it's a 1, we then round it down. So then this number to 2 significant figures just becomes 50. Okay? With our other example, the 2 significant figures, we'll find our second significant figure, which is the 7. The next number along becomes our decider, so that's a 5. And because it's a 5, we must round it upwards. So that means this one to 2 significant figures becomes 0.0028, because we rounded the 7 up because the next number was a 5. And now we have 2 significant figures just like we have here. It's really important that you get your head around what exactly a significant figure is, but the main rule is if there are zeros in front of the numbers at the start, then you can ignore all those zeros and your first significant figure is your first number above 0. Okay, so moving on to the final part of this video then, we're going to be looking at estimating and how we can use the things we've just learned in the previous 2 parts of this video, so rounding to decimal places and to significant figures, to make some really horrible looking calculations a lot easier just by rounding them up to the nearest decimal place or significant figure. So the example I've got in front of me here is we've got 128.6 plus 40.36 over 63.479 multiplied by 2.75. Okay, really difficult to work out in your head, but this question thankfully allows us to estimate this. So that means we can round some of these numbers up. Okay, so our first number then, we've got 128.6. Okay, it's quite vague about how accurate you can round these to and how many decimal places or significant figures you should use, but the trick is not to overcomplicate these questions. Just do whatever you think feels appropriate, and I'm sure you won't go too far wrong. Okay, so with 128.6 then, I think, well, this is quite close to 130. Okay, so if you round this to two significant figures, that will become 130. Then we've got 40.36. Well, this is really close to 40, so to one significant figure, or even just to two significant figures, this is 40. So that can become plus 40. Over, then here we have 63.479. Well, we can round this one to one significant figure. That will become 60. So we can put 60 here. Then multiplied by 2.75. Well, if we round this up to one significant figure as well, that can become 3. Okay, so now that we've rounded all these up and given a sort of an estimate for each of these numbers, it now makes this sum much, much easier. So 130 plus 40 gives us 170. That's a 0, 170. Then 60 times 3 gives us 180. Okay, and now we've got a final little bit of our calculation. We've got 170 over 80, 170 over 180, and these numbers are very, very close together, quite similar, so we can estimate this. Okay, use a little squiggly line here on our equals to show that it's an estimate. So because they're quite close together, we can say that they are roughly equal to 1. Okay, and that is our estimate to this sum at the beginning. What we've done is we've rounded these all up or down to the nearest one or two significant figures, and then worked through it, simplified it, joined it all together, and then again made another little estimate here to get to 1. Okay, I hope this video was clear to you guys. I hope you've picked up some useful hints and tips on rounding to decimal places and significant figures. If you enjoyed this video, then go and check out my other videos on Mitch Maths, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.